Okay, you're good to go, Kelly.
Okay. All right, let's bring the meeting to order and let's take our roll call. Commissioner Carlton, not Carlton, I'm sorry, Commissioner Moorhead.
I'm here.
Commissioner Tarbett.
Present.
And Commissioner Cates.
Here.
Okay, and
Commissioner Moorhead.
pardon?
Mr. Carlton is not a commissioner. Bruce Moorhead.
Right, I did call Mr. Moorhead.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't hear that.
I started to call Carlton, but I corrected myself. I'm sorry. Okay, so we have our quorum, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let's go on to and approve our consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve our agenda from February 7 and our minutes from December 6th?
Motion to approve the agenda and the minutes.
Okay, in a second.
Second.
All approved, say aye.
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 Aye. Okay, awesome. All right, let's move on. We have no presentations today. Let's go on to our action agenda by Mr. Rizzatello, please.
Okay, thank you. So as you all may recall, every year we do the economic development flyers. So this is just the 2022 iteration, and the data within them is from our subscription to Esri Business Analyst, and that's a software program that aggregates data up to the block group level. And you'll see that we have general flyers, but then we have business district flyers. So the first one is downtown. And downtown would comprise pretty much everything along College Avenue. So we have data broken out into 10, 30, and 45-minute drive times. The good news is that we're well over the 70,000 threshold where we start being a serious contender for retailers, restaurants, and the like. And you'll see that even our daytime population is still well over the 70,000. So that's a good thing. The thing that I find a little alarming, I mean, it's good for people that own property, but longer term, it's a little bit shocking, is when you look at the estimated differential in home values over a 5-year period. So for instance, in 2021, when 10 minutes of College Avenue, the median price was at 280,000. But then in 5 years, by 2026, they're estimating that it's going to shoot up to 516,000 as the median price. That's definitely a jump, significant jump. So that's something to be aware of. Also, when you look the age demographics, it does show that in the next 5 years we'll get a tad bit older, but not on the level of other areas adjacent to us. So that's a good news. And then retail leakage, that demonstrates areas where our demand outstrips supply of retailers. And the areas where we have the gaps, even with the town center, it still continues to grow because we do have a growing population. So general merchandise stores, 81.3. So there's a $47 million gap in sales from what this area can support. So that means folks here are driving elsewhere, whether it be Pendleton, Tri-Cities, or wherever, to fill that. And then from the gap, it gets followed by jewelry, clothing stores, and then it goes on to furniture stores and so on and so forth. So that's downtown flyer. Meadowbrook and Stone Creek, we aggregate that into the roughly the same thing. You'll see there again, the level of retail leakage is similar. The home value spike is definitely more acute in this one. So it goes up to 531,000 in 5 years. And yeah, very similar data statistics. Myra Road Corridor, we have a flyer for that, and very similar thing there. So similar data deviations. All this was updated. We pulled this data a couple weeks ago. So that provides data for Myra Road Corridor, the drive time from 10:30, 45 minutes out. Then we have other information. The marketing flyer has a breakout of population, households, per capita income, median age, as well as the drive time area map. As you can see, within 45 minutes, you get on the fringe of Tri-Cities. And then retail leakage, restaurants, we still have a leakage of over 12 million. Automotive dealers, this is surprising, but we have a $43 million leakage with that. Clothing stores, 22 million. And then that's followed by electronic and furniture and so on and so forth. And then site selection, I won't go over this extensively, but we do prepare a PowerPoint that essentially has the available properties.
I wanted to note that Commissioner Fuchs has joined us, and I've been in contact with Commissioner Sanders, and she's attempting to log in.
Oh, great. So this the attached PowerPoint, that basically goes over available properties, because like when we go to the International Council of Shopping Centers this May, when we go to the retailers, they want to know our available sites, what is it near, and in general zoning and information to that effect, as well as contact information. So as you scroll further into that PowerPoint, you'll see that we have all of the sites labeled out that have availability, as well as demonstrating similar projects and historical investment. So that helps as we market that. But every year I get permission from EdTech to utilize this public outreach information. And once again, this is just following suit and giving that permission again.
Do we have any questions from our commissioners? Okay, if there aren't any questions on this, we do need to take this to our city council. Do we have a motion for us to move on with this and approve this to be taken to the adoption of the economic development flyers?
So moved.
All right, thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
Okay, let's move on to the creation of a Walla Valley Creative District for Walla and College Place. Mr. Rizzatello will present that.
Okay, thank you. And Lisa, on the creative district, if you could click on the link for the GIS file. So if you, that would be great. So what a creative district is, this is a relatively new program by the state. It was adopted in 2017. And it's competitive, but if you get accepted as a creative district, Each creative district actually gets earmarks from the Washington Arts Commission. So you get some seed money for either public art education or wayfinding or public art projects. And then there's also a carve out in the capital budget that the state adopts every biennium. So right now there's only 11 creative districts in the state of Washington. The newest one being downtown Kennewick. They recently were accepted into the program. And in general here, in talks with the Downtown Walla Foundation, and then we're starting to have talks with City of Walla. We believe it would be conducive to apply jointly, because since it really is, the cities are right up against one another, and there is a lot of connectivity to try to go at this from applying as a singular district. Now, historically, no one has done this so far to try to do a joint one, but there's nothing that says we can't, and we think it'd build a stronger case to actually getting accepted into a program, because just because you put in for it doesn't mean you automatically get it either. So basically what we're looking for is a recommendation from this body to move ahead with this and you'll see it under the recommended action within the agenda packet, to basically recommend to City Council to pursue filing the application with the Arts Commission for a Walla Valley Creative District, and that would follow the boundaries in that map that was pulled up. However, if that regional option, either if it ends up outright not being allowed by the state, or if Walla loses interest, then the city on its own accord would proceed with filing this. And this is key because it opens up a source of revenue for public art projects and things like that, which is, you know, historically, the city hasn't really had like a dedicated source of funding for this sort of thing. We've piecemeal have tried to put together grants from everyone and anyone, but there isn't a dedicated source. And if we get accepted into this program, it would allow for that. Any questions?
Well, it sure sounds like a good idea to me. I'm totally behind this. Do we have any comments or questions from the rest of the commissioners? Okay, well, can we have a motion then to recommend to City Council to pursue this filing with the Washington State Arts Commission for a Walla Valley Creative District?
So moved.
All right, and do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, and all in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All right, awesome. Okay, let's go on down to our tax increment financing, the TIF. Mr. Rizzatello?
Okay, thank you. So tax increment financing, this is a relatively new concept in the state of Washington. And the best way to explain it could really dovetail into one slide in the slideshow. So Lisa, if you could scroll to slide number 5, because there's a chart in there that really captures the crux of this. Which is in all 49 other states, tax increment financing has been allowed. Historically, in the state of Washington, it was constitutionally forbidden. The last session, they actually opened it up where it's now allowed for the first time ever, an explicit tax increment financing district. And the basic TIF model is that you have your existing tax base, as you can see here in the slide, and then you do a study to try to guesstimate, but it's with solid facts figures, figuring out your growth model over a 20-year period, as well as potential private investment, what the increment is, basically in property taxes and so forth. What you can do with that increment once you establish the study is you can bond against it to build infrastructure. And it's like a but, if, and, or test with the bonds, where you can basically say that if it weren't for investing in the public infrastructure in this way, that the development wouldn't happen. And it's based off the increment over like the next 20 or so years. And then basically, if the estimates come in where let's say the value is captured earlier than that, then the tax increment financing district can essentially be retired and you can create another one. If it goes out a little longer, then and let's say you didn't hit that mark with the incremental taxes, then it's correct that the city would be on the hook for coming up with the difference. That's why you do a very detailed study and assessment to figure this out, and you have public hearings and the whole thing. This is brand new. So what we're seeking permission from this body and then from city council is basically to do a study for one tax increment financing district. Now, each city can only do two, and they can overlap, and you can only do two at one time. So if you go to the file where it's labeled GIS, Stone Creek Downtown TIF, this is while we can do two, it's a recommendation from staff that we just do one at this time, and we just hold the other one for if development pops in another area. But we believe with the, and you'll see it within the GIS file, Lisa, if you can click on the GIS file name, that the suggested boundaries basically cover the SR State Route 125 College Avenue area. And it's so that we can continue to build out infrastructure to support development, such as fixing up College Avenue, the east-west road, assisting on that through Mike and Craig's property. Also, if there's a gap that exists from our grant writing to fund another well out there that would help charge a whole system. And then we also have the suggested district going up into College Avenue. And this has been a discussion with this body in the past, but one of the stumbling blocks with getting development specifically on College Avenue is that when you're doing newer development, at least as it stands right now, it necessitates for those businesses to build their own parking. And a lot of the properties on College Avenue are really oddly shaped. They're narrow and they're long. And there are vacant pieces of property in the middle of the long blocks. And we believe this could be a way to actually build publicly shared, publicly owned parking lots in the middle of the long blocks, since they're vacant. And if we build these publicly shared lots, in essence, that will allow us to essentially waive the parking requirement for development on College Avenue. And we believe that would help facilitate small businesses and, you know, your typical downtown type of investment along College Avenue. Now, what the study, which if we proceed ahead would occur, is it would say we would essentially have the cost of the various investments, which we believe need to be made to facilitate the economic development, what we believe the increment is, and that basically the delta between the two is met. And if basically with the study, it would come back to Economic Development Commission. So there would be subsequent analysis and a vote of whether or not to pursue it or not. And same thing with City Council. So what is before you is merely just recommending the City Council to grant permission for us to conduct this assessment, so we can get the nuts and bolts of what we believe the increment is, as well as the cost of the infrastructure investment. And Brian, our finance director, is on here. Do you have anything to add, or did I cover the nuts and bolts?
No, you covered it great. One thing I could add though is, so when you take out these bonds at whatever value, you use the incremental increase in the property value of that identified area to pay back the bond. So you get 100% of the property taxes for that incremental increase in the assessment value. Then you're required by the WAC to or the RCW to pay back those bonds with those proceeds.
And then just to chime in as well, even when we conduct the study, it would be brought back to you all, it'd be brought back to City Council, there'd be hearings on it. And then even at that juncture, you also have to present the study to the Washington State Treasurer because they actually sign off on it too. As I said, this is a brand new economic development program in the state, although it's commonly used in all other 49 states. Right now, City of Everett is doing this, and then City of Pasco is basically a little bit ahead of us on this. But it's a way to facilitate infrastructure investment to encourage economic development of commercial and housing types. So that's what's in front of you. It's not committing us to do the TIF, but merely it's getting permission to begin studying it, and then it'll be brought back at a later time once we have all the answers aggregated.
You go back to the map for a second.
Yep.
So is the proposed TIF right now everything that's shaded red?
Yeah. Yeah, it's shaded red, and that's because there's some requirements in the TIF legislation about pieces of property that in distances of whether or not it can be connected or not. And with various projects that we believe will pop, these were ones that we could connect together. Now, technically, the city has the ability to do a second TIF. The issue with doing a second TIF as of right now is that there's two potential future business areas that could take advantage, but the problem is that via that connectivity rule, which is about less than, basically, when you're utilizing right of way, there's some distance requirements about 1.5 miles or so from corner to corner. And the issue is that Myra Road and Martin Airfield, which could be a potential site building businesses that are conducive to the airport, you can't really connect either of those together because they're on the further ends, and you can't really connect either of them to this as well. And the problem is with both Myra Road and Martin Airfield, there aren't definitive infrastructure projects at the moment needed to facilitate that. So we don't really want to squander the opportunity for the second TIF district until we have solidified projects. We believe there's enough of a smoke and gun argument with this one to at least facilitate doing the study and then see what it comes up with. And I would also mention that with this, we're going to have existing city staff conduct this study as well. So we aren't going to hire a consultant. We'll have the finance department take this on with our on-call engineer.
So the study is essentially to determine approximately how much incremental taxes could be collected.
Yeah, over the upcoming 20 years, what's the increment of growth in the taxes? And then essentially, what is the delta of that compared to the infrastructure projects needed to yield that growth? And then that's what that study will say. And then at that juncture, you all, as well as council and so forth, get to chime in, and if there's general agreements to moving ahead with it to make the infrastructure go or not. And again, this is something we've been waiting for a number of years, because all the other states, it's commonplace to do this. In Oregon, just because I know a lot of our business bleeds borders, is that in the state of Oregon, this program exists as the urban renewal program, but in general, it's the same concept.
Yeah, and just curious, but if a TIF is approved and put into place, does everybody in the city limits that is currently a property tax payer pay the new incremental property tax, or just payers that are inside the red TIF zone?
Well, it's not paying an additional increment. The study is essentially saying what we believe the new increment would be over 20 years, and then you can bond against that new increment. And
No,
yeah.
I get that. I
Yeah.
get that. I just wondering, to pay off the bonds with the quote unquote proceeds that Mr. Carlton mentioned.
Yeah.
Those proceeds come from collecting incrementally more taxes.
Yeah.
For all property tax payers in the entire city, or just those that are in the red zone?
Essentially in this red zone here. So like, for instance, if the future development, let's say if it was overly rosy, and for some reason we went underwater on it, then there would be a gap, and then the city in general would have to figure out how to make up the gap. That's why it's about being very conservative and purposeful on what we believe that increment is.
Thank you.
All right, are there any other questions or comments regarding the TIF? Okay, well, if we can have a motion to recommend to City Council to pursue this tax increment financing district for the infrastructure improvements. Do I have a motion?
I move we recommend City Council approve the TIF study.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Tarbett, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Let's move on to our reports. And let's start out with our community grant program presented by Mr. Rizzatello.
Hey, thank you. So this is something I need your all assistance with. So the city council has a discretionary amount of money they can give to community organizations that are doing programs that benefit College Place residents. And I included some evaluation sheets, but per this program that is in place, basically members of this commission, as well as the city park board, they provide initial gradings of the applications, and then city council essentially takes the final vote on how to allocate the money. But I would just ask, please review the 4 applications and then provide the numerical grades in the spreadsheet that is attached. Email it back to me, and then I will aggregate them. And then essentially from that, council takes the votes on who gets what. The bucket of money is about $5,000 this year, which is a small amount. However, city didn't used to do this. This is actually after a program that the city of Ellensburg does, because it just facilitated community involvement and then good ideas for the community. So please review the applications and get your scores to me by the end of the week if at all possible. Any questions?
So is this something that you are emailing to us?
I emailed it to you all about a week ago. I can email
Oh.
it. I can email it again. I emailed it to everyone on this board and the park board because we're going to aggregate everyone's scores together and then they'll figure out who gets what.
Okay, that sounds good. I'll take a look for that.
Yep.
Any questions from our commissioners? Okay, shall we move on to the multifamily tax exemption program, please?
Okay, thank you. So this is an item to just ponder about. So if you remember in past years, we had general discussion about the fact that historically the city couldn't offer the multifamily tax exemption. And that's a program where you can waive a portion of property taxes if a certain percentage of like multifamily units are deemed affordable. City of Walla has always been able to do this, and that's actually what facilitated the Evergreen development over by Safeway on Rose Street in downtown Walla. Historically, College Place hasn't been able to offer this because the rules surrounding this were that either you had to be in a county with a population of 100,000 or in a city with a population over 20,000. In counties that didn't hit that threshold or a county seat. And because we weren't 20,000 and we're in a county seat, we weren't able to offer this. However, staff recently was reading through some state legislative law that was changed last year. And we realized that they quietly put in this in basically a poison pill language into RCW 84.14, where while we can offer the 8-year program, we can offer a 12 and a 20. So what we want to pose to this body, and it's not for a decision tonight, but just think about it, is do we consider offering this program as well, given the fact that Walla does? And then if so, where should we examine aiming this program for? Because you have to establish geography for it, and you will see some attached language from Bainbridge Island. They were in a similar situation to us up in Kitsap County, where they were recently, now that they changed the state law, they adopted this, and you'll see some information about that, about how they did it and then what geographic areas they picked. So please review this information. If you have any questions, please let me know, but this will come up in a future meeting, because while we're also presenting this to you, because it does have an economic motive, since it encourages the affordable housing and multifamily, it also requires action on planning commission's part and city council. So we're moving it like on joint tracks. So please review it, but you have any questions now, I'll try and answer them the best I can, but please mull over it and let me know if you have any further questions. Anyone have questions?
Any questions or comments? Okay, let's move on to our Port of Walla Walla Countrywide CEDS document by Mr. Citello.
Thank you. So this is just so you're aware that this exists. So this is a document that's utilized to get a lot of federal and state grants because they typically you'll have problem getting grant funds unless you have what's called a comprehensive economic development strategy. And in our case, the port acts as the agency for that. So basically, it cites what your work plan is as a county, and then what you're trying to do to facilitate economic development, and then how are you measuring it. So you will see that this document has a lot of that. So it's really for your information, just to be aware of. The part that impacts us is page 8 specifically. Because you need to prioritize your key projects for investment. And typically it's usually around like 5 to 8 projects. And then as there's grant opportunities at the federal and the state level, they'll see what they can do to facilitate them. So as you can see for City of College Place, we have 5 key ones, and we've actually made significant headway toward achieving quite a few of them actually. So Lions Park, that number is slated at 3.2 million. I'm very happy to report that by and large, majority of it is funded now. We recently received word that we got another $800,000 from State Department of Ecology to separate the pond from the creek and improve the parking lots. So that's great. We made that movement. Stormwater decant facility, that's a facility that essentially separates out particulate matter from stormwater when you empty a street sweeper. Right now, the city doesn't really have one. We've been drying material out on concrete beds, and you aren't really supposed to be doing that. So we end up getting an engineering grant to help make that a reality, and then we'll go for construction money next year. So we're making good headway on that. South Majanier Road, that's another priority. So we end up getting a Metropolitan Planning Organization money. So we have a grant to do engineering on Southwest Majanier from College Avenue to Blue View Lane. That's going on this year, probably a little bit in the next year, the engineering. And then we have a federal earmark, and we're trying, and likely there'll be some gap that'll be assessed to the TIF if y'all move forward on that. They'll make Majanier Road become a reality, and you'll see that number there. Wastewater treatment plant, that's our largest project. The gap on the actual wastewater treatment plant itself, the total project's about 26 million. However, there's 2 components. One is equipment, which we've been working into our rate model. The other one is this pond project they want us to do to not put the treated effluent in the creek, and that amounts to 20 million. We do have some funding from Department of Ecology. We are working with our legislators to try to do a regionalized solution that hopefully could help rein in costs by both cities, because while we have this project, while theirs isn't as immediate, City of Walla over the next coming years is also up for improvements to the tune of $25 million on their treatment plant. So we're trying to have some discussions on if there's a way to regionalize and bring in economies of scale. So we're trying to work with the state to get a more sensible solution to that. And then well number 7. So over the years, you've heard us talk about the drinking water well projects. All those projects have only caught us up to where we were like 5 years ago. And in the meantime, population has grown. So we do have a need for another hole in the ground. That will be at the far end of that Stone Creek development. So we ended up getting some Public Works Trust Fund money from the state to facilitate engineering and some construction for a new well site at the end of Teal Road, and it's on city-owned property. So those are our key projects that we're trying to facilitate and end to get them complete. But this is a document that helps us get there, and it's important to know that it exists. Any questions?
All right, if there are no questions or comments, let's move on to our development update, please.
Okay, thank you. I'll provide an overview to the best of my ability. Some of these projects, I can say what they are. Other ones have nicknames because they're in the exploratory stage and they don't really want it to be public yet. So I'll go over them. Project Chocolate. They're still evaluating Meadowbrook area, so we're waiting to hear what the word is on that. Project Coat is a big box coat retailer, and they are looking at the greater Walla area. They've not landed on a site yet, but we've linked their real estate development folks to some of the property owners here in College Place. So we're trying to get them to look over on this side of Myra. Chase Bank, unfortunately, we did lose them. They are having a nationwide restructuring where a lot of these big banks are moving to where they want most of their services either online, or if you're in a metro area, they're narrowing it to one branch. Unfortunately, in looking at our region, the foot traffic for Chase Bank was at the Alder branch and not at ours. So they did close the Chase Bank over on Meadowbrook. We are trying to assist them with remarketing the site because we believe that would be a good use for either a fast food retailer or something. What we're seeing is that local banks and credit unions, luckily with both of them, they're still looking at having that local customer service, but with these very large banks, they're starting to peel away having the local sites. Project HM. This is a fast food coffee place on South College Avenue. We've been working with them for the past 2 years, and this is on the site of the old Classy Chassis car wash over at 9th and College. This project is now permitted, so they will be breaking ground on that. Project FM, they are evaluating, just waiting for the sewer to be all wrapped up with Southwest Sewer to consider to go there. So we are wrapping up that sewer. Project BK, this was the Burger King. We are trying to get them to take a look at the Chase Bank site. They pulled the plug on this project across the highway next to Aspen Dental. And it wasn't just our city. So this franchisee was looking at establishing other branches in Burbank, Pasco, Grandview, and a couple of other places along the I-82 corridor. They pulled the plug on all of them because of construction labor and material shortages. So not to say they'll be gone forever, but at least for now, and it's all stemming from the labor and the supply shortages. Project W, they're on hold, and then Project D, they are just essentially waiting for that whole like Myra 125 thing to work out before they take a look at that. Project Flight, that is Martin Airfield. We are trying to work with Mr. Corliss to get a meeting to understand future of that property, to our understanding, to date, they are keeping it as an airport, but it'll have ancillary uses surrounding it that are that essentially utilize that airport. Next one's Goodwill. They are moving along a very good trajectory. So construction is ongoing, which is great, and that should be ready to go by getting into the summer here. Project Medical. This is like a new urgent care facility that would go over on Commercial Drive, basically across from the car dealership, but they have signed notice for a piece of property out there, and we're very close to issuing a permit on that. And then Project Equipment. And this is for some of the property that's on the north side of Commercial Drive that backs up to the bluff. But there is an equipment rental company that exists in the Greater Valley, and they're looking to relocate from Walla over to Commercial Drive. So we are giving them the necessary information to provide them for an educated decision. Residential, going on that side, there's a number of developments. So Homestead, we're just essentially waiting for some additional information from them, but then that project will get knocked out. There'll be roughly about 36 wise-size homes to the east of Dones Avenue, adjacent to the pond. Villages of Fort Walla. That one, we recently obtained information where it looks like that it is getting resurrected and will occur. That's a 180 unit apartment complex on Whitman Drive. There's an agreement in principle between the previous landowner and the current one to make it happen. So we're pretty positive on that. Country Estates, they're working on adding some additional units in there. We continue working with them on that. Sermon Development, this is up on Spitzenberg by Wenzel Nursery. That is an apartment complex that amounts to about 60 units. The project is permitted and ready to go. So we expect them to break ground any day now on that one. Stone Creek Development. This is a very interesting one. So this is the back 2/3 of the vacant piece of property across from the high school. But there is a developer out of the greater Spokane Coeur d'Alene area, a developer that has not previously done work in this area, but is very highly resourced. And there is an intent to purchase this property. It amounts to about 200 acres. It's Craig Christensen's part of the property. We're working through some information with the adjacent landowner, because in order to facilitate this development, there needs to be an east-west access adjacent to the sewer we built. But I would suspect by next week we know whether or not this will go or not. If this goes, the residential component's going to be catalytic. It's we believe a couple hundred homes could fit back there over the next couple of years. So I mean, this thing goes, it's dramatically going to fuel the growth for the community. So we're very excited, and this developer definitely has the means and does a pretty nice product. They've done a number of developments around Post Falls, Idaho. So we're hoping this sees light of day. We believe it will, though. So we'll keep you posted on that. Villages at Garrison Creek. That is a development that'll fill the donut hole in the Villages of Garrison Creek subdivision. There's a vacant part of that property, and Mr. Bottomer and some other developers are working to fill the hole in that with about 70 or so homes. We did put it out for public comment, received quite a bit of public comment. So we have given that back to the developer. They need to essentially update their transportation impact statement because the TIA was done a long time ago and the face of that area has changed. So they have to provide some additional information, and we've communicated that to the developer. But that has the potential to add in and complete that Villages of Garrison Creek subdivision. Project Bell, we actually just ended up getting an update on that. That's a little bit different from what you see here. But that project actually closed. So that's going to be at the southwest corner of 8th and College. And we believe that they have, it's a developer out of Prosser, and we believe he is going to build a mixed use building. There'll be a combination commercial space on bottom, residential up top. So that recently just happened. So we are monitoring that. That is the site that was formerly owned by the CM Bell family. Project Kelly, that is some property out on Southwest Davis. That was bought by the Jeff Kelly out of the Tri-Cities. And basically, if you were to draw a line going further south on Davis, like if Davis kept going, what this property will do is it'll be a variety of like duplex townhome type structures. So we are waiting for some plans to be turned in for that, and then it'll go through our planning process, but that's exciting. And then Whispering Creek subdivision, that is that property out on Southeast 8th heading toward Lions Park. Homes continue to be built out there and sold right away, so that's great. So they're working on the last couple, but then they'll be fully built out. So with that, that is the update on development. As you can see, we're the commercial projects, I believe, we'll be able to get ignited interest when we go to the real estate conference this May in Vegas, because a lot of those connections essentially withered a bit because a number of them were let go or retired with COVID and everything shutting down. But the conference is going to be back in session this year. So we believe we'll be able to facilitate some new contacts again. Because like, for instance, the folks we were talking to about putting a hotel here, all 6 of them, their real estate development managers either retired or got fired as part of the pandemic. So we actually have to have conversations with brand new people now. But that is an update on things if anyone has any questions.
All right, do we have any comments or questions? This is all very good information, Mike. Thank you. Okay, well, if we don't have any more comments or questions on this, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
And do we have a second?
Second.
All right, and all in favor, say aye.
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 Oh.
All right, thank you very much. And we'll see you all in another